business of filmmaking is complicated and challenging at the best of times, yet at others it's potentially dangerous and even degrading. This is precisely why stunt and body doubles exist, to prevent actors from suffering the risk of serious injury or feeling pressure to expose more of their skin than they'd like. But beyond the obvious reasons, actors will sometimes employ the services of a double for highly unexpected reasons, be it to perform a speciality task they're unable to do, to give the director a slightly different take of a scene, or even to boost their own ego. In the case of these actors, each used a double for a rather peculiar or surprising reason. It wasn't always their fault, and in many cases the absurdity makes a wacky amount of sense, but each nevertheless serves as a testament to the amount of unseen work that goes into even the simplest movie scene. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with Whatculture, here with actors who needed doubles for ridiculous reasons. Wesley Snipes would only shoot close-ups and dialogue, Blade Trinity. It's fair to say that the troubled production of Blade Trinity is much more interesting than the film itself, as demonstrated by a hilarious report from Patton Oswalt about Wesley Snipes' disruptive behaviour on the set of the threequel. Snipes bristled with writer-director David S. Goyer throughout shooting, to the extent that the two would ultimately only communicate through post-it notes. Plus, unless he was required to be on set to shoot a close-up or a dialogue scene, the actor spent most of his time confined to his trailer smoking weed. This resulted in his stunt double reportedly performing a larger-than-expected volume of the actor's shots, even those which weren't action-centric or necessitated a stunt double. This was corroborated by a journalist who visited the film's set, adding, quote, "Not only was he not prepared to help his fellow actors during their close-ups, but if the shot involved anything less than a front-on close-up, he called for a stand-in to do the acting for him." It means Wesley Snipes' stand-in was in more of Blade Trinity than Snipes himself was.
Film and TV is cool, but you know what else is cool? Protecting your privacy online. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 3 months free if you sign up today. I'd make that deal. Damn good deal.
Roger Moore thought his running was awkward James Bond. Roger Moore may have been rather long in the tooth by the time he finally decided to quit the role of James Bond, but did you know that any time the actor ran on screen across all 7 of his films of his tenure, the scene was in fact carried out by a stunt double? This wasn't due to any physical inability on Moore's part, but that he thought he looked awkward when running, and presumably didn't want either himself or the 007 character to look too silly. After all, Moore's Bond dressing up as a clown and bedding women decades younger than himself was the utter pinnacle of dignity, right? Even so, one suspects these days it's a basic requirement that any actor playing Bond can pull off a badass-looking run. Jack Black couldn't play the electric guitar properly, School of Rock. As an immensely talented actor-musician, Jack Black seemed like a note-perfect choice for the role of guitar-shredding teacher Dewey Finn in School of Rock. But there was one minor, unexpected complication. Though Black has proven through his work in Tenacious D that he can rock an acoustic guitar with the best of them, at the time of the movie's filming, he rarely dabbled with the electric guitar, and therefore had to actually learn how to play the instrument to a basic level. However, Black only performs a small amount of the playing himself, and for the solos, a double was drafted into play. Given it's no secret that Kyle Gass is the more accomplished guitar player in Tenacious D, it actually does make a bit of sense. Granted, it's reasonable to assume that Black would know enough about music to probably fake the solo to a decent standard, but apparently that wasn't the case. Willem Dafoe's penis was too big, Antichrist. It's not terribly surprising that Willem Dafoe had a stunt penis for his role in Lars von Trier's searing psychological horror film Antichrist, given the amount of graphic male nudity on display throughout. However, the real reason certainly is a shock. The controversial filmmaker, of all people, thought that Dafoe had a, quote, enormous that was too big. As for quite what qualified Dafoe's member as being oversized for a film like Antichrist, von Trier said, quote, "Everybody got very confused when they saw it." And if on the off chance you are curious about quite what a confusingly large penis looks like, it doesn't take much to find footage of a younger Dafoe sharing his impressive endowment with the world. And if that ain't a self-esteem boost for an actor, what is? Natalie Portman didn't want to dive into cold water, Your Highness. Pretty much the only reason anyone remembers the 2010 stoner comedy Your Highness is for the sequence in which Natalie Portman's heroine strips down to a metal thong and takes a dip in the nearby lake. And while you'd be forgiven for assuming that Portman had a stunt double for the strip scene itself, that's actually not the case. Portman did get down to her undergarments herself, but when it came to getting wet, she deferred to a body double because the water was, quote, really, really cold. Coming mere months after the Black Swan controversy, where Portman's dance double claimed the Oscar-winning actress did much less of the work than the studio claimed, this story didn't help the actress's reputation for precociousness. Still, it all blew over pretty quickly and, Your Highness faded fast into obscurity. Martin Sheen suffered a heart attack mid-production, Apocalypse Now. To be clear, there's nothing funny or ridiculous about a heart attack, but the production's response to dealing with a 36-year-old Martin Sheen's mid-shooting coronary sure was absurd. The shoot was a famously hellish one, and when Sheen suffered a heart attack on location in the Philippines, even the actor himself worried about the costs it would incur a production already massively over budget. Rather than panic investors and cause the plug to be pulled, Sheen claimed he was suffering from heat stroke and insisted that the production shoot around him. During the 6 weeks he spent recuperating, his brother played a body double for any shots not showing Sheen's face, with the rest being filled in once he returned to set. Credit where credit's due though, you'd never know by watching the movie itself, even if it's flatly insane that production wouldn't shut down after its lead actor almost dropped dead. Appropriately balmy for Apocalypse Now. Russell Crowe couldn't convincingly write mathematic equations, A Beautiful Mind. No matter how brilliant an actor might be, there are some innate aspects of certain professions that are virtually impossible to imitate within just a few weeks or months of research. Short of pulling a Daniel Day-Lewis caliber feat of method acting, people in that profession will be able to recognise a faker a million miles away. And that was the problem faced by Russell Crowe and director Ron Howard while shooting the Best Picture-winning drama A Beautiful Mind, where Crowe played legendary real-life mathematician John Nash. Because Crowe was unable to convincingly write equations with the natural flow of an actual mathematician, Howard hired the film's math consultant Dave Bayer to also play Crowe's hand double for scenes which required an equation to be written down. Hilariously, Bayer even trimmed his nails in order to match Crowe's, unaware that Crowe had since grown his out to match Nash's. As a result, Bayer had to wear acrylic fingernails for much of the shoot. Dakota Johnson had butt tattoos, 50 Shades of Grey. Given how much of a fuss was made about the amount of graphic sex in the 50 Shades franchise, you'd be surprised how much of the rutting was actually carried out by body doubles. And while one could perhaps understand that lead actress Dakota Johnson wanted to preserve some of her modesty during the more in-your-face sex scenes, that's actually not the reason she had a butt double throughout the erotic thriller trilogy. Because Johnson had tattoos on her bottom, and these were deemed not to suit the nature of her mousy, demure protagonist Anastasia Steele, the call was made to have a non-tattooed butt double perform any scenes that glimpse the character's bum. The film's cinematographer said, "We did have a butt double for Dakota, and I had the pleasure of casting a non-tattooed bottom." As for Johnson herself, she called her tattoos annoying due to the sheer amount of times she has to have them covered up for roles. Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson couldn't stand each other, the fate of the Furious. The real-life beef between the Fast and the Furious stars Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson is no secret, with each not so subtly calling the other out on social media, and fans noting their total lack of direct interactions in 2017's The Fate of the Furious. It subsequently emerged that this was completely intentional, to effectively eliminate their time physically on set with one another. Throughout the film, there are many obvious tells. For instance, one interaction conspicuously takes place over the phone and was likely recorded separately. Elsewhere, the action sequences naturally utilize stunt drivers, again ensuring Diesel and Johnson didn't need to be in the same vicinity. And in other scenes, one of the characters is generally facing away from the camera due to one side of the interaction being carried out by a double. Despite the mutual benefit of both men getting along and making the best movie they could, complete with, actual physical interactions between them, egos seemed to win out. This was rather hilariously reflected by the film's poster, which also depicted the two facing away from one another. Gert Frobe didn't know how to play golf, Goldfinger. Gert Frobe gave arguably the most iconic and unforgettable villain performance of the entire Bond franchise as Auric Goldfinger. Yet despite his fantastic screen presence, the actor required a double for one major aspect of his character. For the memorable golf contest between Goldfinger and Bond, he didn't know how to play golf, and so for any shot where the actor's face isn't visible, a golf-savvy double is actually playing the part. It does seem a bit daft, because ultimately, how hard can it be to make an actor look good at golf?